¿y tú?
Bien.
Tratando bien.
Ya sé, ¿verdad?
De hecho. Aquí no hay señal, ¿verdad?
Pues está
Ido bien, trabajando, ¿no?
qué bueno.
Un poco ya noticias, pero más comercial y corporativo.
Nice. ¿Todavía estás con Spectrum o no?
Sí, pero pues ellos le cortaron el budget más de la mitad, so
¿En
ya
serio?
no, ya no me alcanza. Me cotiza de más, parece.
Sí, cobran muy caro.
La neta sí,
Eres muy caro.
la neta sí. No va a mentir, pero sí. Mentiría, sí, ya que la verdad. A ver, gracias, señora.
Ya está. Ya después de eso sale. ¿Tú también en la mañana, no? ¿O no?
Siempre ha sido
Ay.
los años.
¿Y no estás en la mañana? No.
Pues ya de tantos años ya estoy.
Ya sé.
Que yo sí, a veces, si me tengo que levantar a las 7, a las 8, es un... Cuando veo, a veces cuando tengo que ir y como veo los niños en la escuela con la mochila,
Let me actually use this one.
Sure.
Here you go.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, everyone set?
Isn't there a photographer? Did they show up?
Not yet. No, but
Alice is
we're
watching.
going
You
to
got it?
work together here.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. You're ready.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Hicks, and I am your district attorney. I have to tell you that this morning, when I was having my birthday breakfast with my 5-year-old son and my wife, I had no idea that my birthday present today would be to be sued by my own county. So, a little bit of a different way to celebrate your birthday, but nevertheless, here we are. I am being sued. I'm one of 2 named defendants in the SB4 lawsuit. For those that have been following my comments, I have mentioned that I fully anticipated there being a lawsuit regarding the SB4. I fully anticipated there being an injunction that would prevent prosecution of those cases until the lawsuit reaches probably the Fifth Circuit, and then at that point we may see some relief. But eventually I anticipate this case may very well go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But we'll have to wait and see where it goes. In my mind, that is more of a political circus, or more of a political resolution. My concerns are with seeking justice for the people of our community, and that is where my concerns continue to be. Seeking justice for the people of our community, seeing to it that victims receive justice in our courts, defendants are held accountable for the crimes that they commit. These are the focuses of this office, and we will continue to seek justice for the people in our courts, regardless of the progress of this lawsuit. So I I'm not concerned about this lawsuit. It will take the course that it takes. It will not deter or distract this office from continuing our pursuit of justice in the courts of El Paso County, Hudspeth, and Culberson counties. Our focus remains the three primary goals, which I had from the very first day that I was sworn into office. Our number one goal has always been and continues to be to make sure that the Walmart case is on track. It is on track. We have a status conference on January the 18th where we will announce to the court that we have completed all discovery. All discovery has been released to the defense, and we are ready to go to trial. There will be a number of pretrial hearings that have to be heard between now and trial, but we are ready to start that process. Number two, the elimination of the backlog. As we have known, there are over 14,000 cases in our backlog. We anticipate that backlog being finally eliminated by the spring of 2024. And number three, to deal with our personnel shortage. I'm very pleased with the progress we have made on that. It is going to take a long time to dig out from the hole that the previous administration has left us in, but we are well on our way to eliminating the issues with the personnel shortage as well. Unfortunately, the Commissioners Court did not give us as many places and as many positions as we had asked for, but that's okay. We continue to work with the resources that we have. I think that's something that El Pasoans know a lot about, which is doing more with less. And we're doing more with less in our office, and we continue to do that. So I know that you probably have some questions. I'm willing to answer any questions that you have. As always, we try to be as transparent as possible. So any questions you may have.
Sir, when you refer to the Cindy Ramirez as matters, when you're referring to the political circus site, what are you specifically referring to? The lawsuit, the county, the state?
All of the issues surrounding SB4, to me, that's on the political side of the job. For me, my job is focused on laws that have passed and are actually on the books for me to enforce.
Including SB4 now?
Well, but SB4 is being challenged. So it's not until it's past all of the challenges that it's actually on the books and able for me to enforce. So until all of that's done, it's really a matter of politics and how we ended up in a lawsuit where my own county is suing me, all of those issues, how that lawsuit's going to progress, what the eventual end result of that lawsuit's going to be. I have some theories, but I don't know. I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm a criminal prosecutor, and so until we get okay, no problems. But someone to slide off until we get to a point where I have a law that I know passes constitutional muster and is on the books and able for me to enforce. Until I'm in that position, I won't be in a position to actually start enforcing laws. And just like every other law that has some controversy to it, once we get past the political wrangling and the back and forth, once we get past all of that, then I'll be in a position to actually direct policy for this office.
And if it is enforced in March, how is the office going to handle the caseload? Is it going to be a strain on the office, or do you guys have the resources for that?
Okay. So we exercise prosecutorial discretion as we move forward. So let's just assume that there wasn't a federal lawsuit and there wasn't an injunction that's coming with that federal lawsuit. If there wasn't, then my direction would be that we address those cases on a case-by-case basis. We obviously are going to prioritize, given the situation with the jail and everything else. Let's set aside some of the issues with what it's going to take to meet the evidentiary requirements on that particular statute. So setting that aside, we're looking at all of the other issues with the jail and everything else. We want to make sure we're prioritizing the cases that are the most important to the community: murder, sexual assault, aggravated assault, domestic violence cases, DWIs, cases where I have victims of crime, we want to make sure that we have adequate room and ability to prosecute those cases. These cases are not going to have the same priority as a case where I have a victim of a crime and an aggravated assault or sexual assault. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have those resources. Our cases, in the district attorney's office, we normally have about 30,000 cases a year that are presented to our office, and we normally prosecute between 20 to 21,000 in a year. This year, we've prosecuted a great deal more because we've been absorbing that backlog, and that's put a strain on our system. We simply don't have an ability to add a whole lot more to that system, so we have to be discriminatory in the cases that we accept for prosecution. And we were very discriminatory in the cases we accepted for prosecution in going through the backlog, much more so than what we would be on a regular basis. So that just, I don't know how else to answer your question other than we'd be very discriminatory in it. We continue to prioritize the Walmart case is obviously a priority for this office, and we're obviously going to devote heavy resources to that. Going back in time, we obviously devoted a great deal of resources to the Facundo Chavez case, obviously a very important case to this office. We have disposed of over 30 homicide or manslaughter cases in the past year. That's a tremendous number of cases to dispose of, and it has taken a great deal of resources of this office to do that. Managing resources is a tremendous part of my job. Managing those resources and knowing where to put resources and where we can't put resources is a tremendous part of this job. More questions?
So I wanted to ask a little bit more about you being surprised by this. Had you not been included in conversations with the County Commissioner's Court before about this, or is your role and function with the Commissioner's Court completely separate? What was the communication like?
I knew that the Commissioner's Court wanted to file suit. I did not know who was going to be sued. The county attorney's office that normally would represent us in these situations did not give me any kind of a heads up that this office was going to be one of two named defendants.
Do you think that was done to prevent you from moving forward with any cases in the meantime, or what is your thoughts about why you were named?
I have no idea why it was that way or how we ended up in this situation. But we can't move forward on any of these cases because the law isn't effective until March. So no one's making any arrests on these types of cases at this time, and we hadn't even made plans to start educating or setting up the procedures for these types of cases. As I mentioned, there are some unique evidentiary requirements in proving these cases, and that's going to take some education to the law enforcement agencies when and if these laws are even applicable. So we hadn't even started that process.
Had you had any conversations with the governor's office ahead of the signing about this law and what it might do to how it might impact the county and your office?
I have not, no. I believe the commissioners did, but I have not.
So what is the impact to the county for being named in the lawsuit?
Well, obviously they're paying to file the suit, and they would end up having to pay to defend the suit also, so.
One of the concerns surrounding this before is that in a community like El Paso, there may be mixed status families, and the concerns is that maybe they're not going to feel safe or they're going to feel uncomfortable reaching out to law enforcement when they have any issues. What would you say regarding those concerns?
I would strongly emphasize that they are safe. They are safe reaching out to law enforcement. Even if this law were in effect, and it is not in effect, but even if it were in effect, to understand exactly what the first part of that law is, it is for a person to illegally cross from Mexico into the state of Texas. And in order to prosecute that, it is someone, they have to, the trooper or officer has to physically see the person crossing. So if they're already in the United States illegally, they can't be prosecuted under that law. So it's a active crossing, not a in the United States illegally situation. So that first part of that law cannot even apply to someone who's already here illegally. But please understand that the law is not in effect, and you should not hesitate to call law enforcement if you have been a victim of crime or if you see a crime. Please know that you can call law enforcement, and the sheriff's office, the police department, and the DPS will respond and will not be concerned about your citizenship. You must feel confident that you can rely on law enforcement, and you can rely on our office to prosecute those cases where you have been a victim of crime. Citizenship is absolutely not a requirement to receive services as a victim of crime. Anything else?
So, as everyone noticed, I was late.
Yes.
So, could you explain just something brief about, we're live right now for the whole state of Texas. I'm from Spectrum News. Can you explain a little bit about what this is about?
Sure. As I started off, I woke up this morning and had a lovely birthday breakfast with my 5-year-old son and my wife, having no idea that I was going to come to the office and find out that I was being sued by my own county. So it was a little bit of a shock to me to find out about this lawsuit naming me as one of the 2 named defendants. That being said, the SB4 lawsuit, which I did anticipate having occurring at some point, the governor signed the SB4, making it into law, and after signing it into law, a number of immigration rights organizations, coupled with El Paso County, have filed a lawsuit in federal court in an eventual attempt to enjoin the enjoining act, or the asking for an injunction hasn't occurred yet, but I anticipate that coming, which will stop the inaction or the enforcement of SB4, which is not set to take effect until March. So there's still plenty of time before it's even set to take effect. I anticipate that it's going to be litigated up to the 5th Circuit and potentially all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court until we get a resolution and the court system tells us what part of, if any, of SB4 is constitutional for the state of Texas to enforce. I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm a criminal prosecutor. That's where my expertise is, in criminal prosecution. So I don't claim to be a constitutional scholar. I have some theories and thoughts about what is and is not going to pass constitutional muster, but I think you're probably better off talking to a constitutional scholar about that.
I did want to mention or ask for clarification, because if I remember correctly, the law would allow local and state police to allow somebody they suspect of having crossed the border illegally. So it's not just someone that they actually saw, it's somebody that they suspect.
Okay. While you're correct, but the proof is they have to prove that it is someone who has crossed from a foreign country into Texas. Okay? So if you have crossed from a foreign country into New Mexico and then entered into Texas, then you wouldn't be in violation of the statute. So while that may get them the ability to question someone, it doesn't enable them to prosecute and make the arrest. Well, it doesn't enable them to make the arrest, and we certainly would not prosecute unless we can meet all of those elements. And that's why I was saying earlier that we hadn't even gotten to the point of being able to educate the law enforcement agencies on the steps that we would need in order to get a case that would be prosecutable. So that's anytime you have new laws, particularly whole cut new laws, not just changes to the law. Anytime you have whole new laws, prosecution offices spend a great deal of time working with law enforcement on not just here's what the law says, but here's what we need in evidence in order to prosecute the case. Here's what our expectations are regarding what you're going to put in your case and what evidence you're going to collect for us to be able to prosecute. And if you don't do that, then we're not going to be able to prosecute. We haven't gone through that process. So, and I didn't even anticipate trying to start that process until the late winter, early spring, because I was anticipating this lawsuit. Either I didn't anticipate being named, but I anticipated this lawsuit.
So, for example, let's say there's a family violence call and the officer arrives and indeed the family is undocumented. He's able to ask them for their immigration status?
Right now, no, because first off, SB4 is not a law until after March. But if there's an injunction that stops prosecution, then that would continue to be no, because there's no basis for it. And I anticipate that injunction happening. And I would very much want someone who has been a victim of domestic violence to make that phone call, to make the phone call, to call for help, to start that cycle, to break out of that cycle of violence, because there are so many resources available for victims of domestic violence, and we want to make sure that we connect that victim with those resources to help.
But do you agree now that, like, if the law goes in effect, the community is going to be scared and they're not going to be, willing to count on the authorities?
I don't know. I don't know. I understand that would be, among many other issues, that would certainly be a concern. But there are certainly a lot of other issues.
And another point for clarification, any arrests under this law that would be made by state troopers, would they also be processed here in our county? Would they also be processed through El Paso County and through your office?
Any criminal arrest made in Hudspeth, El Paso, or Culberson counties come through our office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you all for being here. If you come a little early, you could have had